What out, family, and welcome to the third episode of Voices from the Street. I had a chance to sit down with Chicago author Andre Brown, and we talked about his book and some solutions in some ways that he thinks, in his opinion, that our community can get better. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Make sure that y'all share this, comment in the comment section, and make sure that you subscribe. It's your boy, SNTV. Go ahead and tell the people what's your name and where you from.
Man, my name is Andre Brown. I am from, I guess you could call it 300. You know what I'm saying? That's my hood. I grew up over there on 62nd in Michigan. And man, I actually was one of the people that discovered DJ Ken Aon. So that's a story in itself, man. You know what I'm saying? I was telling my lady that she was like, you know, she's not like hip to the drill scene. But I told her about it. So I just talked to him like earlier this week, and I was telling her about it. So then I actually like looked him up on YouTube, and he was telling her the same. He was basically saying the same story that I was telling. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's where I'm from. That's why I grew up there. You know what I mean?
And DJ Ken was actually one of the first DJs that was out around that time when the drill scene was first popping. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't know that. I understand that you have a book that you wrote, and let me tell you, that places you. That damn near places you in the category of its own, because I talked about in one of my lives the other day how as black people we don't have a lot of owners of, you know, businesses and things of that nature, and we also definitely don't have a lot of authors. You know, black people kind of like most black people really don't like to read, let alone write a book. And I'm actually working on a book myself. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, that puts you in a whole nother category and makes you a scholar of some sort, in my opinion. Your book's called Journey of the Betta Fish. I mean, you know, what can you give us, man? What can you give us without giving us too much, just dealing with the book and what the book is about?
Well, the reason that I was looking for a title, I had a bunch of different titles at first. I actually started writing it in the training for work. You know what I'm saying? So I had to be there for like, I think like 8 weeks or something. And I'm a person that, you know, I don't have to look at you. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't know if you've ever been in a training. You got to like look at the person and it's like, yeah, you're there for like 8 hours. So I just started writing. You know what I'm saying? You know how you doodling at first and just making little faces. So then I just had my daughter. You know, my baby girl was probably like about 1 year old. And I just started writing letters to her. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like writing letters to her because at this point, I think my daughter and I, we're 41 years apart. So, you know, it's like as you get older, you start looking at you start getting like this thing is called the self-actualization about like your mortality. And you start thinking about the things that you value. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to give them the wisdom that I had gotten, and I wanted to write them letters. So I came up with the title Journey of the Betta Fish, and let me explain to you something. This right here, I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me see. This is a betta fish right here, right? Betta fish. Oh, let me put that down. Betta fish are the fish that you see in the water, like in a vase or something like that, all by themselves, right? So you can't see it here, but I have another tank right here. It's like, and it's full of community fish. So the thing about betta fish, that if you put them in the community tank, then all of the fish will attack them and kill them. You know what I'm saying? Even though it's a community tank, they'll attack them and kill the betta fish. So the betta fish have to be separated from them. But if you put the betta fish around each other, then they will attack and kill each other, right? Even if the betta fish mate, and you have a female and a male betta fish, if they mate in the same space, you have to separate them immediately or they will kill each other, right? They'll fight to the death. So because of that, their population, they're endangered species. So who does that remind you of? Exactly. So the reason that I call it Journey of the Betta Fish is because this is my journey. So what I did was I traveled all over the world in order to see the behavior of the other people around the world to see if it mimicked our behavior. And the only place that I found it was in the fish. I didn't find it nowhere else. So that's why it's called Journey of the Betta Fish.
No, I'm a deep person. I like to look into stuff, but I never looked at it like that. But you're right. I think it enhances, you know what I'm saying, the interest a lot more. You've actually, you know, traveled different places in the world and looked at different cultures. And it's crazy because the only thing on earth that acts like us is a betta fish. Wow, that's crazy, man. That's crazy, but it's mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? The way you put that is borderline genius, if not genius. You know what I'm saying? I like that. What other influences did you have to actually make the book, or is this just dealing with primarily with life experiences?
You know what? It wasn't my idea to write a book. It really wasn't. You know what I'm saying? I used to tell these stories at night. You know what I'm saying? So I worked at a lot of group homes, and I worked at, like, my last like real job was at the juvenile detention center. You know what I'm saying? So the shorties used to call me the orator because I would go around and I would tell them stories, and they'd be like, "Yo, man, fuck, dude, you need to write a book. Like, you need to write a book." So the shorties was telling me to write a book. I never thought about it. You know what I'm saying? Because I had all of these stories because of like a lot of the places that I had been and the work that I had done, you know what I'm saying, to be able to tell them, you know, reference different things according to like their case or like their upbringing or whatever. So I was an overnight staff. So, you know, some shorties, man, I just sit up there and I would talk to them all night, you know what I'm saying? And the shorties was the ones that actually encouraged me to write the book. Because like I said, it was just letters to my daughters, you know what I'm saying? And what the idea about the letters was, I wanted them to understand life from their own father's words. You know what I'm saying? I wanted them to be able to know why our people are in the position that they're in. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I saw like that the world is changing, and as a result, our people are changing. And every generation that you get away from struggle, you know, people like they don't understand it as much, and they turn their back and they want to assimilate. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that. The further you get, it's like, and that's something that the oppressor does, and I've seen it in other cultures too. You know what I mean? And when I'll talk about that later, but you know, I wanted them to understand it and not just be sheeple. That's what we call it, like sheeple, where you just, you know, social engineering, everything is telling you how to think. I wanted them to have a perspective and not to go the same route that I went in order to understand it to the degree that I understand it. You know what I'm saying? That I understood it. And the shorties are the ones that encouraged me to do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it actually started.
So what are some of the ways that you think, you know, we can get through to them when we trying to teach them something, or when we trying to tell them something that might save their life?
Brother, that's the $1 million question, ain't it? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, one thing about my background is that I have a clinical background, right? So I went to school, got like degrees and stuff like that. I really didn't go to school to go and get education. I actually went to school to escape where I was living. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up like in the early 90s. So, you know, the early 90s was crazy. A lot of murders, more murders even than now. So I went there in order to escape my situation. So, and I say that to say this: in order to identify with shorties, you have to understand where they're coming from. So part of understanding where they're coming from is knowing that when older people talk to them, they don't want to hear it. So you got to know that when you talking to them. So I had programs, you know what I'm saying? So I ran a bunch of programs. One of the best programs that I ran was at the Chicago Urban League. You know what I'm saying? So it had like a big component to where we spoke, you know what I'm saying? Like we had group meetings where we talked and things like that. But you have to understand the whole problem in order to address every issue. And I'm only going to talk about that for a second. One of the biggest issues in our community is that we are told to speak only about certain things, and only in the capacity that people are okay with speaking about. There is something like in our community where the shorties don't respect men. And the reason that they don't respect men is because they've always been told like their fathers ain't shit, or their fathers didn't love them, and all this type of shit. There's this thing that goes on within our community that's called, I call it social hierarchy. So there's a social hierarchy, and the shorties are indoctrinated into that at an early age. You know what I'm saying? And what it does is it teaches them that they come second, that they're not important. Always let girls go first, and don't ever talk back, don't ever say how you feel. Like, so if you say if a shorty got an issue, and they say, I have a problem with X, Y, and Z. People will say, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. But when you're telling the person not to say how they feel, what you're doing is they still feel that way. So what it does is it manifests into other issues as it goes on. You understand? So it manifests into self-destructive behaviors. So one thing about talking to shorties is you have to understand where the shorties are coming from. You have to understand their frustration, because it's frustrating being a shorty, especially being a young brother, because you're only being dictated to about how to think, feel, and act, right? In the book, I talk about this story called The Lion Tamer. So the Lion Tamer is about how you have these lions, and you have a lion tamer, and the lion tamer can never teach the young brothers how to be men or how to be lions, but they can only be told what to do and how to act, and then you give them either positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, right? So in understanding that, then it's going to make you handle the shorties a certain way. In order to have any relationship with anybody, you have to build rapport with that individual, and you have to take them out and show them different things. You can talk you can talk till they blue in the face, but you have to actually understand where they're coming from. Have some level of compassion and empathy, and you have to take them out to show them different things to motivate them to do different.
This is page 162, and it says, as a people, we have found ourselves lost and without the desire to resist. We have found a convenient way out. This way out is simply acceptance of the circumstances that our communities are in. In your opinion, what would be a great way to actually be able to properly resist the powers that be?
Man, that's a great question. I think that one of the issues in our community is that there are certain people that don't take any accountability. In order to change something, and there has to be accountability. You know what I'm saying? So, like in my house, for existence, my partner and myself, we have different things that we do, right? Like she manages the finances, because she's like me. If I have money and I got like a bill, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna look and I'm gonna say, well, I can be a little bit late on this bill. You know what I'm saying? She's not gonna do that. She's gonna pay the bill 100% every time, on time. We different in that way. And then I have my role. My role is to protect. My role is to, strategize about how we're gonna be better. You know what I'm saying? Do different things like that. That's what my role is. The position that our country is in, whose fault is it? And whenever you think about where to place the blame, you place the blame on the person that's in charge. I'm gonna give you an example. The country's not doing well. Everybody's mad at who? They're mad at the president. Everybody's mad at Trump, right? Okay. When Illinois was doing bad and the governor wouldn't pass the budget, then guess what? When the election came, they got rid of the governor, right? When the city wasn't doing well, who'd they get rid of? Or they basically forced Rahm Emanuel out, correct? So when the police department, when that whole Laquan McDonald thing happened, they got rid of who? I think the dude name was McCarthy or something like that, because he was the head of the police department. Same thing with the offense. The offense wasn't doing well for the Chicago Bears. They got rid of the quarterback. But when our households aren't doing well, whose fault is it? Who's in charge? Think about it. So that's the issue. The level of accountability in our community is not there, because we've been taught that it doesn't exist. we've been taught that the outside influence is the problem when we know that the inside influence is the problem. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the first part. The first part is to assign accountability to where the system is failing at. Another part of the problem is to understand that in order to keep a people divided, what you need to do is give some of the people privilege, right? Now, to understand that, there's an experiment where there's these two monkeys. So both of the monkeys, they're doing tricks. Then they're getting cucumbers, right? So then after a while, I think one of the monkeys start getting grapes. So then the monkey that was still getting cucumbers, you can see him start getting mad and start lashing out at the one that was getting the grapes. That's the same thing that happened to us. That's the same thing that happened to us. And see, the government, they do experiments on animals and then they apply it to the people, whether it's makeup or whatever it is. So what they did was, like, I think it was in the 60s when they created the projects, what they did was they gave the sisters, they gave them housing and all of that type of stuff, but that kept the brothers out. And then what happened was they started bickering at each other. You see what I'm saying? So my solution, and you say, how do we fight it? And I know you said this, the only way that we can fight it is united. The one thing that happened was when they started giving certain people education, start giving certain people housing and things like that, they turned their backs on the people that were still struggling. You know what I'm saying? So they gave them just enough to turn their backs on them, the one that's supposed to be. And they say, oh, listen, look at you. You can do what I did. You know what I'm saying? You can do what I did, but you're not, because you lazy and you blah, 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 blah. Not taking into account all of the trauma, the poverty. You know what I'm saying? It's a system that's created so where a lot of people would fail. And the ones of us that have gotten education or have been privileged enough to get out of that situation, for the most part, we can't look at the ones that didn't or that struggle or whatever and look down on them. We have to unite. We have to go and start businesses and doing businesses with each other. That's the way that we do it. You know what I'm saying? And we have to keep our families together. That's my solution. You know what I'm saying? Every place in the world, they do business with each other. You know what I'm saying? And they keep their families together. We are the people that are different when it comes to that. And our community is a reflection of that.
Just say I was an aspiring author, and I was seeking to write a book, which I actually am in my case. But what are some of the first steps I would take towards writing a book, and how would I go about getting a book published? And also, if you don't mind, how long did it take you to complete your book?
You know what? That's the thing. I started writing a book in my training, right? So I write my book in my training. As soon as it got to the point where as soon as whoever was talking, I just pull out some paper and just start writing. You know what I'm saying? Because it helped the day go by, right? So I say that, and so I was in the training for 8 weeks. I was probably in the training for about a week before I started doing it, okay? And I would just write, whatever I could think of or whatever. So then when the training was over, say I wrote for a few hours a day for like 7 weeks, say something like that. Then I didn't touch the book at all. There's a program that's called, it's like Talk and Type. I had kind of tried to do that, but it messed up the whole entire thing. I couldn't, so I tried probably so I was writing it probably in July, August. Then I looked at it again in probably December. I messed with it for about a day. Then about a year later, I wrote in it for about 3 months. So right now we're at about 4 months, right? Then it took me about 4 months to get it edited. The editing process was probably harder. It was probably the hardest part, because I found this guy. He was an editor that was I found him online. But when he started editing it, so he had the written version that I had written. Then he had the talk and type version, right? That was all messed up. And then So what he would do is he would call me. He would call me and he would just tell me, he'll say, just tell me what happened. And man, you know, I would just start talking and tell him the story. But one thing that, you know, because I kind of have an idea about what kind of book you're going to write. I started, as I was telling the story, because I had never really told some of the stories, I started going back to the place where I was when that stuff happened. You know what I'm saying? So now, because we compartmentalize a lot of stuff, so I started going back to when that stuff happened and how I should have felt then, but that I didn't feel. But now going back on it, my life is together. You know what I'm saying? So that took about 4 months. You know what I'm saying? So then it took about maybe to actually get it published. I went back and forth with it for a couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? So I would say altogether, it took about 7 months. You know what I'm saying? To get it perfect to the way I wanted it. If it wasn't exactly the way I wanted it, it probably would have took less time, but it took me about 7 months.
So just so y'all know, if you're thinking about writing a book, you're gonna have patience and you're gonna have to be dedicated to the project and what you say you're doing. You ain't gonna be able to write and publish no book and get it edited and all that in 2 days. It ain't gonna happen, people. This is for the people that's looking to start a book or have already started writing the book, you know, that think that when they get finished writing the book, it's just now it's ready to go. No, it don't work like that, y'all. So, you know, keep that in mind that, you know, once you start writing a book and once you finish that book, it's still a long road. I don't want y'all to, you know, write no whole book and then when it come time to get the book edited and get the book published or whatever, y'all give up on it. You know what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind. It's hard work. It's hard work. You know, a lot of times we see what's going on the field, but we don't see the hard work and the practice that was put in, you know, behind the scenes. So just keep that in mind. Early, you know, we get in these positions and it's like we stop caring about what's going on in the hood and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So man, I just want to say that I applaud you for what you're doing and for what you have accomplished, and I appreciate that, bro. You know what I'm saying? I can see that you genuinely have love, you know what I'm saying, for the people. And I also want to say this. When a person stands up and they have pride for they people or for their culture, and you know they represent that, white people, do me a favor. Stop thinking just because we represent our culture and we're not banging on our brothers that we racist. That's not racist at all. That's, you know, promoting love and prosperity within our culture. Something that y'all been doing. You know, I just wanted to put that out there because I get that a lot. A lot of DMs and a lot of people just, you know, SNTV, and most of it be from white people. Some of it even be from black people. It's like, you know, you seem like you getting on, you know, kind of a, no, it's not about that. It's about, I would be remiss in my duties and all of this would be for nothing if I didn't acknowledge the truth. I'm not no damn puppet. I'm not no coon or nothing like that. You see what I'm saying? There's no amount of money that motherfucker can get me to make me just forget about my people, dog. You know? So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of put that out there. And I want to know, man, do you have any you know, new projects coming up, or, you know, what's next? What's next for the brother, man? What can we expect from you?
Man, you know what? Man, I've been doing a little bit of photography. So that's like, you know, I worked in the field for so long, man. You know, it's like you get burned out, man. It's like I kind of walked away for the most part about 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying? From all of like my shit that I've been through, all of these shorties that I've been like, man, I'm telling you, bro, when you read that book, you're going to understand it. You're going to understand it, man, because we like the same type of person. You know what I'm saying? You know, man, it wore me down, man. And one thing that I would say is that what people don't understand is that our situation, man, and the more that you really get to understand it, first from going through it, and then secondly from like understanding it, it takes a toll on your quality of life. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I had to kind of step away from it from the perspective that I was working in it. You know what I'm saying? So I wrote my book, created something from that. I do like consulting, and you know, I do like some independent contract work here and there. But like I said, I do photography. I'm a licensed pilot, drone pilot. You know what I'm saying? I was telling you about that. You know, where I take like aerial photos and stuff like that. So I'm doing that right now. I started writing my other book. You know, maybe let me see. I think it might have been 6 months after the first book came out. You know what I'm saying? So I was doing like a lot of traveling and stuff like that to kind of get some more research for where I was going. You know what I'm saying with that? And I did. And I'm gonna talk about that in the next book. And what else, man? Just getting some other licenses, man. You know what I'm saying? To make sure that I'm straight as far as like stable. You know what I mean? But photography, my next book, I do a podcast called the Man Code Podcast, where I talk about a lot of our issues from a very transparent place. A lot of people, man, it offends them, but it is extremely honest. You know what I'm saying? You know, and it deals with like the whole social engineering piece. So I got the podcast, the book, the photography, and it seems like I'm forgetting something. And I have my Man Code page. So if you ever like get a chance, go on Facebook, hashtag Man Code Coaching, and then you'll see like the page where all I do is I present a bunch of different information for people to be able to just go through to get an understanding about what's going on. One thing about like trauma, and when you're living, like when you're surviving, you don't have a chance to step back and look at everything from just like, let me just step back and just look and see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you know, hopefully my daughters get older and they'll go through it and read some of the stuff that I put there for them so they would know exactly what was going on, exactly what I was on at the time and what I was thinking when everything was going on at these different points in history. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's all I got going on. The Man Code page, the new book, the podcast, the photography. I think that's it, man.
Like I said, I want to applaud you, bro, and keep doing what you're doing. You're a motivation to me, and I'm pretty sure that you're a motivation to a lot of people that's around you. Is there anything that you would like to say, you know what I'm saying, last messages you would like to give before we get out of here? And I also want you to give the people your social media handles so that they can, you know, go follow you or link up with you or whatever.
You know what? I think the best way to link up with me, man, is on my Man Code coaching page on Facebook. The name of the book is called Journey of the Betta Fish. I wanted to touch on the fact that you said that, you know, you connected with the Nation of Islam and stuff like that. That's dope. You know what I'm saying? I actually lived in Egypt because I was a Muslim at one point. You know what I'm saying? So that's, you know, I look at stuff like that, man. And, you know, we got to find a way, man, to where we can, you know, we can be like, we can stand together. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing, man, that I applaud the brothers at the Nation of Islam about, man, is that, you know, they are trying to use their way to educate us and to, you know, unite us. You know what I'm saying? And man, you know, that's powerful. You know what I mean? But we gotta keep our families together. You know what I'm saying? We gotta keep our families together. You know, and we gotta heal. We gotta heal, man. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we gotta hold each other accountable. Nobody, if we don't hold everybody accountable, then our condition is just going to continue. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the people that's in charge of our community, if you ever want to know who's in charge of our community, you got to look at the people with the most money and the most power. Those people, they have to be held accountable, because if they're not, then our condition is going to continue to, it's going to continue to get worse. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I applaud you. Man, you inspired me, brother. I'm proud of you. You know what I'm saying? You know, I've been in your inbox, man, since about the third episode. I'm like, man, I got to reach out to this brother, man. You're doing some powerful stuff. It's good, man. I'm almost 50 years old. It's good to see, man, young lions, man, picking up the torch to lead our people, man. And I appreciate that. And you know what? You a soldier and I'm a soldier, man. And we fighting the only way we know how. And I appreciate that, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. That's love, bro. That's love. You know, I want everybody to understand that we need to get these messages out. And we don't have to be the one that's doing this. We could easily be part of the problem. So, you know, we just want to make sure that y'all acknowledge that, man, that we love our babies, man, that we love our people.
I said shit, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, you got to start focusing on what you really want to do in life. You know what I'm saying? And Only you gonna know that, even if it takes sitting off in the wilderness to yourself. Because what you really want to do is gonna set you free. This other shit is gonna be like, this for them. Whether you know it or not, you might tell yourself it's for my family. That's a lie. You're gonna work all your life to either make somebody else rich, or you're gonna work all your life to make yourself rich. And you pick the choice.